David is not a licensed financial advisor and is not trying to sell you anything. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hi folks, thanks for joining me for this special update. I'm here right now to discuss an article I just wrote on the Proshares changes to their ETFs. And I gotta say that I just want to give a little shout out to Rex ETFs, because they know how to do things, and I feel very confident that Greg King and Scott and the rest of the guys there would not have bungled this the way Proshares did. In fact, when changes were announced to VMIN a few days ago on February 23rd, they structured the changes in an orderly way. They mentioned, let's look for a second just at the press release from them. There we go. So what this is this is going to show you the press release from Rex funds, Rex ETFs, who, like I said, did it right when they changed their VMIN. And to read from this here, it says, as stated therein, the funds expect to invest primarily in VIX futures contracts with 2 to 6 months to expiration, rather than the VIX futures contracts with less than a month to expiration, as was previously the case. Beginning on March 7th, all right, notice that Proshares, it's not the next day, it's March 7th, which is weeks away. The fund anticipates that it may begin investing in VIX futures contracts with greater than 1 month to expiration. So this is an orderly transition. Effectively on April 25th, the name of VMAX will be changed, etc., etc. So these guys know what they're doing. They make an orderly transition. As opposed to Proshares, where the basically they do it overnight and the options get crushed. So I want to direct you to a great article on UVXY.SVXY that I found on Seeking Alpha by a guy named Balance of Trade. So let me pull that up for you just for a second here. In this article by Balance of Trade, which I'll link to in the bottom, they talk about how the funds will be changed. And essentially, SVXY is going from 1 times inverse to 0.5 times inverse. So the amount it moves is cut in half. And UVXY is going from 2 times to 1.5 times. So a little bit less of a reduction in UVXY. Now, when you change the leverage, just think of this in extremes. It can be easier to think of things in extremes to understand the way things work. If you have something that's 10 times leveraged, and you compare that to something that is 2 times leveraged, which one do you think would move more? Which one would you rather own and out of the money options in? Something that could move 10 times what the VIX moves or VIX futures move, or something that could move 2 times? You'd rather have an option in something that moves 10 times, because it's more likely, no matter what that option is and no matter what strike it is or how much time till expiration, if it's an out of the money option, it's got more of a chance of finishing in the money for a 10 times product than for a 2 times product. So when you reduce the leverage of an ETF, it means the options become less valuable inherently. Now, it's hard to quantify exactly how less valuable, because there's a number of factors that go into that, but it's a given that it will be less valuable. So when Proshares made this announcement overnight, they were fundamentally changing this product, and the options that traded on it were fundamentally different from that second forward in an unquantifiable way, in an unsplittable way. So there was a very easy solution to this, and I'm really surprised that Proshares didn't think of it. Now, you could say, oh, well, Proshares is off the hook because you can't sue them because they put all this stuff in in the prospectus that says we can do whatever we want, you can't sue us. Well, just because they couldn't be sued doesn't mean that this isn't a public relations nightmare for ProShares. It makes people question the whole integrity of ETFs in general, because this is a risk that nobody thought could happen. They didn't think that they could come out and change the ETF whenever they wanted to. But there was an easy solution to this, one that would have been fair to all options holders, and I don't think options holders would have had any problem with it. Now, of course, if you were short a bunch of volatility, then you liked this change. But if they had done it the quote-unquote right way, or the way I propose here, it would have been fair for everybody. And I come to this method from special situations in equity options. So, for example, there are different types of takeovers that you have. There's cash takeovers, there's stock takeovers, there's two-tier takeovers where you have part stock and part cash. There are also spin-offs, and when you spin off a company, for example, eBay spun off PayPal, and I'm not sure how that affected the options because I didn't trade that one, but when you spin off eBay to PayPal, okay, PayPal's a different company than eBay. It's a different product, so you have to have different options. So a very easy thing that ProShares could have done is they could have released new option series the minute that this change occurred. So you come in that morning, the old series are going to trade based on the old formula, which is easily, it's very easy to keep the old formula going and to trade based on that until these series expire. And you can release new options based on the new formula. Everybody's happy, and there's an orderly flow of business, and confidence is not compromised. It's a huge thing. I mean, these companies are in the business of sales, and so to do something that makes people not trust you, to think you're shady in some way, is not a winning thing for this firm. Believe me, it's not. And to just maybe they needed to have some options professionals on their staff. I am by no means an expert on special situations, but this solution of just having separate series is, first of all, not a new situation in the industry. It's not like people would have been like, "Oh my gosh, how is this possible that they could actually do that?" No, there's new series all the time. There's new series for huge dividends, there's new series for splits, reverse splits, etc., etc., etc. So they could have released a new series and just let the old series options continue based on the old formula. That would have been the right thing to do. That would have been something that would have created less chaos. It would have, a lot of people now that lost money on this thing don't want to trade ProShares products anymore. They don't want to, and maybe you could say, well, ProShares doesn't care about options guys because, for whatever reason. But you know what? Options guys have friends, and you know how many people come to me every day and ask me for suggestions on what they should invest in, even though just because I'm an options professional, they don't know anything about the industry, but they know I'm an options professional, and they ask me what should they invest in. And, this is not an ad hominem attack. I have nothing personal against anybody at ProShares. I'm just explaining that this would have been a better way to do things. And, disclosure, I did lose some money on this whole gig. And I'm not sitting there, I don't expect any sympathy from anybody for losing money. I know that this is a risky business, but this is a risk that we didn't even know existed. It's one thing on February 5th, you could read in the prospectus of XIV that these things could happen, and you could look at past drawdowns and see that there were some big drawdowns. But this case, they've fundamentally changed a product, and hiding behind the fine print is not acceptable to me. I would love to debate somebody on this. If you think that having a new option series would not have been the way to go, and you have strong convictions on why that would not have been the way to go, then I'd love to hear from you. But this seems pretty basic solution that should have been done for me. And once again, as I said in the article, I don't blame SIBO because there was no time to really study this. If you want to check out my article, I will provide a link to it. I'm not like a real, quote unquote, real contributor to Seeking Alpha, so I'm not trying to pretend I am. And I actually applied for this to be considered as a real article there, and we'll see if they allow me to you know, publish this article. You know, this is an industry like a lot of other industries where like the big companies control everything, and I'm sure a big company doesn't want me coming out and saying they did something wrong. And so I'm not trying to you know, bring out any conspiracy theory or anything like that. I'm just saying if you'd released a separate option series, it would have solved the day very easily, and they should have thought of that. I mean, they're supposed to be professionals in this. You would think that they would have options professionals on their staff to figure stuff out like that. And, you know, to Proshares, what would have been wrong with creating a separate series? I mean, that would have been the way to do it. I think the situation will be studied in options classes from now on, because this represents a new risk to people trading, the risk that an ETF decides to just try to change the rules. I mean, I've heard a lot of people lately say, I don't want to use ETFs anymore. I'm just going to go and trade the actual underlying. So maybe trade, you know, options on individual VIX futures or something like that. And you know, I welcome a discussion on different ways to trade different stuff. But this situation was not a fun one for those of us who are long options premium and thought we understood what was going on. You know, there was some article that came out recently that kind of said that, oh, you know, anybody who shorts volatility kind of deserves what's coming to them because it's a stupid thing to do or whatever. But like I said, I have no qualms about losing money on February 5th when volatility spikes, but I do have qualms about losing money on a premium collapse because you've changed the underlying and you haven't changed the options on that underlying at the same time. That just doesn't seem right to me. Thank you for listening to me, and I will see you in the next one. Please feel free to like and subscribe for more opinion and interviews with important people in the industry. Thanks for your time.
Looking out across the nighttime, the city winks asleep beside. Hear his voice shake my window, sweet seducing sighs. Get me out into the nighttime, four walls won't hold me tonight. If this town is just an apple, then let me take a bite. If they say why, tell them that it's human nature. Why does it do me that way? If they say why, tell them that it's human nature. Why does it do me that way?